You're now tuned into the hottest podcast in the world, the Stay Woke Podcast, right here on the SonicBreakdown.com.
Man, it's time to wake up. Get this cake up.
Welcome back to another Stay Woke Podcast. This is D-Ray Brinson, and you know the Stay Woke Podcast is presented by the SonicBreakdown.com. So head over to the Sonic Breakdown and check out our reviews. Also, if you like, we would appreciate it if you gave us 5 stars on iTunes. We love 5 stars. We'll take 4, but we really love 5 stars. So appreciate that. And let's get right into it. Today is going to be sad, but it's going to be the last Rapture discussion, guys. It's the final one. It's going to be a wrap-up of this whole documentary that Nas produced that was on Netflix. If you haven't, go check out 1 through 8, where we break down each episode and give some insight into each episode. So let's get right into it. And actually, before I get right into it, let me introduce our guest for this episode. You've heard him on almost every Rapture discussion except one. And give a shout out to Trav for doing the Just Blaze one. Damon, Mr. Transman from Vibrations Podcast, in for another Rapture discussion. So welcome, man.
Going on, everyone. Glad to be back for this awesome wrap-up of this whole documentary. I'm excited to see your overall view of the entire documentary in itself.
So we're going to break down some of several things, but so let's begin by doing just talking about some of our favorite scenes throughout the documentary. It doesn't have to be in any particular order. If you want to, you can, but I'll say I'll start with one of my favorite scenes was seeing Logic at the end.
That's exactly what I written down.
That's the number one thing that popped into my head was that scene at the end when he's crying and he's just not tears of sadness but joy and understanding of an accomplishment, of a major accomplishment, and understanding the work that it took to get there. I thought was pivotal, and it's crazy that it's art for both of us, and that's in the first episode. That was a good way to lead it off with, I think. What about you?
Well, I agree. I think it's a fantastic way to kind of lead into this whole overview. What do we as human beings mostly inclined to? We incline to emotion. That's what we incline to all the time when it comes to movies, film, etc., music. It's always the emotional part. So I do think this is a fantastic apex to start off with. That was one of my favorite scenes because we get to see a much more humane side of him, or the softer side, I should really say. Again, for those of you that have not checked out the very first episode that we did with the Rapture, or with Logic, I explained that I've always known about him. I've been a fan of his, but I've never seen a side like this in the documentary. And the fact that he's so humble and hardworking, and he gets recognized for that and for everything that he's done, it really hit home. And I remember saying that it felt like I was the one that got the award with that. So I do think that was one of my favorite moments of this entire documentary. Like, once I saw that scene, it was already like, dude, I really like this already. This is going to be a fantastic documentary. So I'm glad that they started off with Logic, and the fact that the fact that he expressed his gratitude for being recognized for his achievements already off the bat in that first episode. And to me, I was like, that's fantastic. That was already one of my favorite scenes already.
I'd say another one of my favorite moments was with Just Blaze. And it was when he's telling the story about how his father and mother basically caught him messing with his dad's stuff. But instead of being mad at him, which he expected, they were happy that he was exploring his side and allowing growth in that, and how they fostered his talent, and they were champions for him trying to be as creative as he could be.
Yeah, they were like his cheerleaders on the sides. They were saying, no, do it again. Keep going. Do it again.
Because, and the reason for that scene, why it was so impactful for me, is because I don't think, especially as we get older, I don't think we realize the impact that we have on the youth as much as we do. Really, adults have the most impact. Like, we do everything because of what we see or what we heard, and how it had an effect on us. I'm doing this podcast as a result of my uncle, which I wrote in my first review on the SonicBreakdown.com about Kendrick's album. That album evoked memories in me of me sitting in, and it was the To Pimp a Butterfly album, the funk in it. It reminded me of sitting he had a beanbag chair in his office, and he had these big ass headphones. Well, they weren't big, but for my small ass head and being so little, they took up half my, each side took up half my head, and listening to George Clinton and the P-Funk All-Stars. Like, that's what that album took me back to. And I still feel, as a result of that, me sharing music with him, that's what really drives my, or helped champion me to one. That's why I'm so involved in music. So that's why I talk about it. That's why I review it. That's why the Sonic Breakdown is what it is. That's why the Stay Woke podcast is what it is, because of that fostering in the music. And I like same thing with that Kendrick's second album, Untitled, of the violins in it. My aunt fostered that with this artist called Regina Carter. So parents have and adults have such a tremendous effect on people, and that scene just kind of brought that back to me. So it was really impactful of like, wow, like, and it makes me want to be more mindful of how I interact with especially youth, because we don't know what kind of effect that can have on them in the future. Yeah,
adding on to that, sometimes when you don't directly do something, it affects them indirectly. Mm-hmm. So it's really key to really watch what you're doing. And again, I don't think, adding on to that too, I don't think we realize the impact that we do have on the youth as well. You definitely hit the nail right on the head on that one. One of my favorite scenes, in no particular order, was the scene that, well, it wasn't in there, but T.I. explained it. It's the T.I. scene where he said he pulled over and joined the march. I really felt that it was impactful, and it was a very powerful explanation of the event that took place. The fact that there's a rally outside, and then all of a sudden, can you actually, let me put it this way, for the listeners listening, can you imagine joining a small march, protest, whatever it is, right? All of a sudden, you're there for about 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20. You maybe been out there for a while. All of a sudden, you see this car roll up, and you see a artist that's got some clout come out and join you, like out of nowhere. He didn't even plan it. He wasn't even the host of it. He just pulled up, is like, you know what? Hold up, right quick. Get out of his car and joins them. I would feel like, damn, we really gonna make a move. We got him on our side. Like, that was huge. That was one of my favorite scenes in that, because, well, for those of you, again, that listened to that episode, it was the entire thing was mostly about the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm looking at it as just the whole general aspect of just somebody with huge amount of clout and success come and join a march where it would pretty much shift a movement. That was one of my favorite scenes in the entire documentary, particularly that episode too.
Just to piggyback off of you, I wouldn't say that was one of my favorite scenes, or at least it didn't pop to mind when I was going through favorite scenes. But one from that same episode was the scene with T.I. and his son in the car, and the conversation that they had, and of kind of old guard, new guard, and how that racial, police brutality, institutional racism, and all of those systemic issues that were a result of America's original sin of slavery had an effect on, like I said, kind of old guard, new guard of, and not saying, T.I. is really old guard because he didn't even live, let's say in the 60s. So the reason why that's, like I said, of America's original sin of slavery, of how it affects and is internalized from somebody that has seen it in a more defined manner than his son, a younger version that's seeing a different version of racism being portrayed in media and in society. That difference I thought was impactful to me, especially how he's checking, because I think it's important as well as passing on that information of how to internalize it so it doesn't be internalized in a negative manner. So and understanding as well to a degree of, so you don't get taken advantage of either. So that's what I took from that scene, because that's how I took it as, that's why T.I. was asking him these questions. How are you internalizing this? How is this affecting you? Because if it's affecting you in a devastating way where you're not going to strive to be better, strive to do better, strive to help others, then I need to redirect how I'm teaching and what I'm doing. And as well, from the son's perspective of, this is how it's making me feel, help guide me into the direction I need to be in, because you know more than I do, especially in regards to this.
One of my favorite scenes also was, I have two extra ones here. One of them is the Rhapsody one, where they were sitting down at the table and the grandmother wanted her to do counting, but Rhapsody wanted a rap. The reason that was one of my favorite scenes is because the fact that somebody from the outside of what you want to do tries to say, hey, I want you to do this, or I think you should do this. a lot of people, let's be real, they will gladly oblige to what is being instructed to them to do, or what they think their parents think that's what's best for them to do. Mm-hmm. But she did her due diligence, kept her foot down, and wanted to do what she wanted to do. Look what happened. Can you imagine if she did not? She would not even be here. We wouldn't even know who she is. Yeah. So the fact that she's able to stay on course with that, even though people are saying, don't do that, you're not going to do good. Or, nah, we feel you better off doing something else. She's like, no, fuck that. I'm gonna go to the ground running with this one. This is what I want to do. She put in the hard work. She put in all of her time, her blood, sweat, and tears all into it. And then look where she's at now. So I really like that resiliency. That's the strength.
And just to add on that, Rhapsody, there's a particular scene from that episode that I took as well. But to touch on that scene is, I think for me, the key for that scene and what you said there was not only that she, because her aunt or her grandmother or whoever said, I forgot who said it, had good intentions. She wasn't saying it to try to doubt her or to bring her down. She thought that that's what would be best. That doesn't mean, because there's people that will say that because they have their own insecurities about they don't think it's possible to do. I don't think that's where the person that said that to her was coming from. They just saw from history, it's more successful to be an accountant. That's like saying to you're trying to be a basketball player. Yeah, the chances are low. Yeah, we get it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. But the second part to that as well is the amount of hard work that she put into it to make it go through. She didn't just say, I want to do this and I'm going to ignore what I could be financially stable with as an accountant or what society necessarily wants me to do, that kind of 9 to 5. But I'm going to put in the time and the work as well as do what it takes to make it happen, which is she knew that she didn't have all the answers. So she went to Ninth Wonder, who had more answers than she did. And she took the advice that he gave her, and that made her better to get to the point where she's at. I think that's also important because you can be so stubborn or set that you might not allow the influence of others that might help you get there. As like you said, you got to go together. The scene that I took from the Rhapsody episode to me that was that resonated with me and my favorite was the sacrifices that when she was talking about the sacrifices that she made and the time that it took her to get there. Just understanding that, like, really, it's not just the fact that you want something bad enough. You can want something bad enough all day, but are you willing to put in the work long enough to really get to there?
Of course.
That was, to me, really key to that for me for that episode. Is there any other favorite moments or that really stuck out to you from the documentary? Or for me, I don't have really any other ones that really, really stick out. You know, there were a lot of great scenes, but those were the ones that really, really were poignant.
No, for me, the scenes that I mentioned, I think were adequate enough.
What was your favorite episode, actually?
I actually have a few. I don't really have one that really sticks out the most. I have a couple here. I'll just kind of give a little basic reasoning as to why I like those episodes. I think will be fantastic for the breakdown here. Okay. First off is the logic one. This isn't in no particular order, even though it will look like it is. I've been a fan of his, and I really like how it breaks down his background in this episode. It shows his passion for hip-hop, hardworking, and kind of a down-to-earth person. I like how it shows the person aspect of Logic for me. I took away that the most with that episode. I think they did a fantastic job in breaking down his struggles, his rise, and then the whole thing at the ending scene, I think kind of was like the little cherry on top to kind of like finalize. I'm like, damn, that's a good episode, and this is only the first one. I really like that one. Kind of set the tone for me. I really like that one the most. Or not the most, but that's one of them. Nas and Dave East, I mean, shit, it's Nas. We gotta put it that way, man. I'm obviously a huge fan of Nas, as explained in episode 2 of this the podcast here. Dave East is kind of similar to Nas in terms of the style to me. Upcoming artist, I like how it was structured from his background and his rise to it. Kind of similar to the Logic in terms of the background and the sort of the theme of the documentary.
This Stay Woke podcast episode is sponsored by Triple Apex. At Triple Apex, they know the importance of a healthy, active, and safe sex life for women, and living in an environment where an understanding, knowledge, and respect of women's sexuality is essential for this. Visit tripleapexforwomen.com to check out their products, Again, that is AAAPEXforwomen.com. Or just click the link in the description below.
Another one is the T.I. one. That one was a little bit, probably the most, to me, one of the most different ones. I like this one mostly for the fact that it's fighting for the Black Lives Matter movement. So it's bigger than just them. And I believe that's also because my personal belief we should all live in harmony. So I think the message that T.I. is trying to give off to people is like, hey, yes, this documentary is cool, but hey, we got some other more important stuff that we still have lots to work on. So I like that one. The Just Blaze, this one was one of the most unique ones because this shows the inside look and the details of how a producer is or a DJ. And that's something that I am considering doing down the road. So seeing how the breakdown of it, how he's messing with his dad's programming stuff when he was a kid, to his dad passing away, that impacted him, and him meeting up with DJ Mustard at the end of that. He just really wanted to understand from DJ Mustard's place of why he makes his beats how he does. Because I remember in the scene where Just Blaze was getting interviewed, he was like, man, that just irked me. I wanted to go over there and be like, what are you doing with that bass line? I just kind of wanted no, you got to do this. Yeah, but he came from such a sound. Yeah. He wanted to come from a better place of understanding as to why DJ Mustard came from that place of why he made his music. So the fact that he was wanting to unpack how DJ Mustard thinks when he makes his beats. So I like that. I like the whole structure of that.
How open-minded he was.
Yeah, exactly. And the last one I really liked was the Boogie with the Hoodie one. I liked how the episode showed a touch of his background mixed in with how he treats closest to him. And the Gary Vee also, too, because I am a fan of Gary Vee. I follow him on Instagram, too. I really like his motivational posts. So the fact that he is talking to him shows, like, okay, he's definitely serious. I like that about him. And he's a young and upcoming hip-hop artist. I mean, shit, he's the same age as my podcast host, Jordan, Mr. Vibes. He's literally the same age. I'm 22. They're born the same year. So I'm thinking I'm like comparing kind of Jordan and him. I'm like, that's similar. That's somebody who I want to partner with. That's awesome. That's good that he's doing that because he's going to get places. So those 5 got to be my favorite of the 8 of the whole thing. So pretty much majority of it.
For me, I would say Rhapsody. The Rhapsody episode was number 1. As I've stated, and when you listen to that episode, you can just tell, again, because out of all of them, with the exception of Nas, I really enjoy her music the most too. So I resonate with her music. And I knew the most about her, again, outside of Nas. So, yeah, Rhapsody's episode, it just felt very personal, and I really enjoyed confirming or feeling the confirmation of the person you believe somebody to be checks out to be the person you thought they were. Again, we, of course, don't know these people, but all you can go off is by the images and the information you're given. And so far, it seems consistent. That episode really, again, resonated with me. I'd say my second favorite episode, Just Blaze. And the reason, again, I said for that, based on what you just heard about how I felt about how it resonated with me from the personal level, that as well as just the inside, I like that information. I like the creative process. I like learning that. I like experiencing that. Those are the things I enjoy. And I felt like, as you stated, he brought us into that world of production. I'm a producer, not in that regard, but just is that idea of building something. I just really enjoy. I really like that aspect, and that one, it gave us that. As you said, to me, that was the most. That and the T.I. one were the most different. We'll go Rhapsody, Just Blaze. After Rhapsody and Just Blaze, my third favorite episode would probably be T.I. And because of the social impact that it had, and it was trying to portray. The last I'll say out of my favorites, the other ones kind of blend together outside of certain themes that I took, was the Logic one. Just because, again, I knew a lot about Logic. I really enjoy his music. And I felt, even though he's out there, as I said before, there were little things about his inner workings with, or his business mindset that I don't feel we're as entitled to on other platforms. That scene when he was talking about the managers, of how he's like, basically, I'm going to hold you accountable. I don't think we really get to see that more business savvy aspect of it in other platforms. So I thought that was really interesting. And then the other ones kind of run together. In essence, A Boogie with the Hoodie, what I'll say, I guess I would put that next. And the reason why I'd put that next is because I kind of felt it capped off, and this is kind of bleeding into the documentary as a whole, which we'll move into next. I felt like this whole documentary basically can be interpreted as a guide for a young artist, because it shows you different avenues in which you can take to get to said level of fame, said level of success, as well as how different avenues on how you need to keep that work-life balance. And then because I feel like A Boogie, and I really think the way that they capped it off of ending it with A Boogie with the Hoodie was so important, because it broke down, we got everything else that you needed to know about the game in essence, and they capped it off with make sure you have ownership. Make sure you own your own rights. Make sure you own your own masters. Make sure you own your own merchandising rights. Things of that nature. After you already, Logic told you how to, the personal aspect and the mental aspect. Dave East and Nas told you about how to manage the hood politics and how to manage giving and still having for yourself. G-Eazy showed you that international aspect of it. Rhapsody showed you the personal aspect of it and staying humble and staying grounded. Just Blaze showed you the production aspect of it, of how to make great music, how to make great sounds, how to complete the whole process, because he also showed you not only the way of making the beats, but at the end of how that beat comes into compilation with Westside Gunna and Conway the Machine, of giving them advice on like, oh no, you should do this part on the track just to help elevate it here. So that's the complete process of making the song. Some insight about the deeper content with Killer Mike and Nas, with the Black Power, White Powder song. And then you ended again, like I said, with the knowledge and ownership that Boogie that you need to have when coming into the game. So I felt like if you take all of that information together, you wrap that up, you pull out the pieces that are pertinent to you, you have your guide to how to get there. So that's kind of how I viewed this documentary as a whole. What about you?
Quite honestly, I would never have thought that you broke it down like that. It's literally like one giant message just broken into different segments, and the deliverance is different, but they all have messages in there to, like you said, there's different avenues and ways to go about it. Just the overall theme for me, I guess when I hear documentary, it's supposed to be information about something, a specific topic. Mm-hmm. So to me, I just kind of just took it as is, as a regular documentary about the person's history and all that. I never looked at it as a huge message to take away from it. I'm very like simplistic. So when something's brought to me, I'm like, I just take it as is, like, okay, you're showing me a black chair. Okay. But what about it? What else is about it? Sometimes I really need to like dig deep and really find out the reason why they show me a black chair instead of a white one. Why not this one? I'm just kind of very simplistic like that, but that's just kind of my overall theme with it. But that was very good how you broke that down. I never looked at it that way, because now I'm like, holy shit, then I should watch every documentary that I know and figure out the entire theme if it's broken down like kind of how this one's structured. So you've really definitely opened up you definitely flicked the switch of the light in my head, like, oh crap, I didn't even think about that. Did not even think about that.
Yeah, like I said, to me, like I said, it's basically a guide to hip hop. How to make it, how to make it in, how to make it through it, and still be balanced. The last thing I want to say, the question I want to ask before we get out of here is, if they were going to do a second Rapture, or a Rapture 2, or a Rapture 2.0 documentary, what artist would you think would be fitting?
Sure. The first one that came to my mind was kind of underrated, Chance the Rapper. I sort of like his flow. Well, not sort of, I do like his flow. But I like one particular song is It's All Night featuring Knox Fortune. I think it would be interesting to kind of see, he's around my age. So he's kind of in that upcoming sort of bracket. I mean, all the other artists, minus Boogie with the Hoodie, they're relatively older, except Davies. He's actually my age too, around there. I don't know. I kind of like it. Apparently, I kind of like did a little research on him. Teachers didn't do well with his aspirations to become a musician. Apparently, he actually got suspended from school for 10 days and for having possession of cannabis. So during those 10 days, he recorded his mixtape called 10 Day. So during that time period, instead of him just be like, I'm just going to chill, whatever, he was already focused on, I can use this time to go build something. I think that would be a good overall theme for him to use in the documentary, saying, use your time wisely. Go ahead, use that time to make something. Put your nose to the ground running. Do something with that extra time that you have. Don't just rest on your laurels. And also, apparently, the coloring book is the first streaming only album ever to win a Grammy. And streaming is huge right now. We're kind of going less of CDs and CDs. We're now going to streaming now, that's how Logic in the first episode, he got 300,000 or 3 million downloads or something like that on Spotify. He was on there.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, it was quite a lot. I think that for an up and coming artist, I think that would be huge. I think it would be a great addition to this documentary. Another one, if you're talking about just in general and not upcoming, maybe some Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, 21 Savage, Big Sean, The Weeknd. I think those would be pretty ideal candidates.
The actual person that I would want to see would be Kid Cudi, even though he's more established, of course, but he's just a very interesting person, and I think it'd be interesting to see the inner workings of how more, and it doesn't necessarily have to be personal because, again, that might be difficult, but just to create a process. I guess another up-and-coming young person that I could think of, Isaiah Rashad off of TDE. Just because I enjoy his storytelling, and I think the way that he raps and where he's from, I think he's from Tennessee, I believe, is a different perspective, and we don't hear much stories from, especially rappers from Tennessee. I just think that would give it would kind of be, to me, that would be like my Rhapsody of that episode, just because it's different, and I think it would be more personal. The other person that I would want is A$AP Rocky, just because of the fashion aspect of it, because I think that's another aspect that hip hop is gravitating to, and hip hop's been in for a while, but it's gravitating to being way beyond just music and just the streams of revenue that we typically think, like Gary Vee said, alcohol. Well, no, we're branching out to Sprite, clothing lines, high-end clothing lines, sunglasses, freaking water. You know what I'm saying? Like, so different avenues, and fashion being one of those where they're really trying to set the tone with Kanye West, A$AP Rocky really trying to be like real fashion designers, Pharrell, as well as others. And I think seeing from that perspective, I think would add that, don't be boxed in, don't be pigeonholed to the standards that society has kind of set for hip hop artists. You can branch into everything. Freaking Rihanna is doing makeup, shoes, shit, everything, and that's selling out quick. So don't just think that you have to be in those certain markets. That would be the artist that I would put on there, just quickly off top.
Branch out, baby.
So I want to say thank you to everybody out there that's listening and followed us for this entire Rapture discussion. Let us know what you thought about the Rapture discussion. Let us know what you thought was your favorite, which one you thought was your least, as well as which episode of the Stay Woke podcast Rapture discussion you like the most, and who you think should be on the next Rapture documentary. And I want to say thank you again to Damon, Mr. Transman from Vibrations Podcast, for stopping by and having a discussion with us and doing all of them except the Just Blaze one, as well as shout out to Trav for doing that one as well and giving us that East Coast perspective for that one.
For sure, D-Ray. Thanks for having me. It's definitely been a fun ride doing these before. This is kind of my first time ever being on another podcast, obviously aside from my own. So I can't wait to see what future endeavors you and I are going to be indulged in. Also, for the viewers out there, again, check us out at www.vibrations.net, VIBRATIONZ.net. You can check us out on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, and Instagram, all under Vibrations Podcast, spelled the same way with a Z, not an S.
And as you guys know, well, first of all, please, again, we do appreciate those 5 stars on iTunes, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate that as well. And if you like what you hear on the YouTube channel, hit us with that thumbs up. We love thumbs up. Not so much the thumbs down, but we love the thumbs up. So we appreciate that. And you know our motto, live, listen to some great music, and above all, love more. And we're out.